Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely vital to anyone building or, investing in tech. We're talking about the Enterprise Proprietary Software License. This is literally the ultimate legal blueprint that protects your digital assets.
So picture this. You and your team just poured thousands of hours into building this incredibly amazing piece of software. You launch it. And then, just a month later, a competitor quietly clones your architecture, reverse engineers your API, and completely undercuts your pricing. I mean, how do you stop them legally? That terrifying risk of IP theft, and it is terrifying, is exactly why you need a flawless software license. It is your ultimate digital shield.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for deconstructing this legal fortress. Number 1, the ultimate software shield. 2, anatomy of a license. 3, red flags to avoid. 4, modern tech licensing challenges. And 5, execution and best practices.
Let's get right into it. Section 1, the ultimate software shield, protecting your digital assets.
Now, you might be wondering how this actually works. Well, here's the fundamental magic of a software license. Your customer receives permission to use the software, right? Plus some limited operational and access rights. But they absolutely do not receive ownership, copyright, source code rights, or redistribution rights. You are essentially handing them the keys to drive, but you're definitely keeping the title to the vehicle.
And this is absolutely crucial. Without these explicit protections, your code is basically an open vault. This document actively stops competitors from decompiling your hard work or, cloning your architecture. Without it, enforcing access controls or winning a piracy lawsuit becomes just an absolute nightmare. It's the mechanism that allows you to actually seek financial damages or instantly revoke access when the rules are broken.
Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of a License, Building the Blueprint.
Think of these clauses as the load-bearing pillars of your whole agreement. Definitions might seem a bit dry, but they reduce massive ambiguity. I mean, if you don't precisely define what an authorized user is, an entire company might try to share a single login. The grant of license dictates exactly the scope of use, the duration, and geographic limits. Then you've got the IP ownership clause, which explicitly states you retain all ownership. Never, ever assume this is implied. It has to be stated. And finally, the limitation of liability clause works to cap your financial exposure and indirect losses if something goes sideways.
All right, Section 3, Red Flags to Avoid, Lawsuits Waiting to Happen.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the wording. To a marketing team, phrases like bug-free, 100% secure, or never fails sound fantastic, right? But to a legal team, they are absolutely terrifying. Software is complex. Servers go down. If you legally promise your software never fails, you're instantly in breach of contract the second there's a minor outage. So yeah, never include these overly broad guarantees.
You also really need to be on high alert for ambiguous language. Words like reasonable, unlimited, or best possible are incredibly dangerous unless they're meticulously defined elsewhere in the document. And whatever you do, do not claim ownership of third-party rights, like open-source libraries, that you don't actually own. Honestly, these red flags can render your entire contract completely unenforceable in court.
Let's look at how things are evolving in Section 4. Modern tech licensing challenges, AI, cloud, and SaaS. And this brilliantly illustrates how specific we have to be today. With generative AI, you need entirely new clauses. You absolutely must prohibit users from extracting your model weights to build a competing system. You also have to cleanly separate ownership here. The licensee owns the generated image or text output, but you fiercely retain total ownership of the underlying AI model that's doing all the heavy lifting.
For modern cloud and enterprise SaaS tools, the requirements are equally rigorous. If you're building healthcare systems or fintech platforms, your legal agreements actually have to perfectly align with your technical architecture. We're talking strict compliance with GDPR and UK GDPR, explicit duties for data breach notifications, really clear rules on vulnerability disclosure and encryption, and vital open-source component disclosures to prevent license contamination. It's the whole shebang.
Okay, let's bring it all together. Section 5. Execution and best practices. Validating the shield.
So how do we make this real? A strong license actually requires seamless alignment across your whole organization through a 3-step validation pipeline. Step 1 is legal validation, where qualified lawyers ensure the terms will hold up in your jurisdiction. Step 2 is technical validation, and this is vital. Your CTO and security teams have to ensure the access controls you're promising are actually technically realistic. Finally, Step 3 is regulatory validation, where auditors step in to verify that you meet strict industry compliance standards, like in healthcare or finance.
Because here's the thing, a software license generally doesn't require any sort of government approval. It only becomes enforceable through user acceptance, and how you actually get that acceptance really matters. ClickWrap, where a user actively checks an I agree box, is considered the absolute gold standard and the most enforceable method online. For large corporate procurement, you'll likely rely on a signed enterprise agreement, or you might use embedded terms that a user agrees to during the actual installation process.
And once it's accepted, you gotta make sure everyone actually knows the software is protected. Because proprietary software has no universal symbol like open source does, you have to deliberately display your notices. They should live in your website footers, on login and download pages, and right on the splash screens of your apps. You should also embed proprietary notices directly inside your API documentation and clearly stamp proprietary and confidential right there in your internal source code headers.
So, let's summarize our core best practices. Always use lawyer-reviewed agreements for production environments. You've got to maintain clear audit trails and version control for every single change. And most importantly, ensure your technical access controls perfectly align with your legal terms. Oh, and please remember, this explainer serves as educational and operational guidance. Any license used in a commercial capacity definitely needs to be reviewed by a qualified technology lawyer in your specific jurisprudence.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, so I want to leave you with this final, provocative question. Is your software truly protected, or is your current license just a lawsuit waiting to happen? Take a close look at your digital fortress. Ensure your hard work is actively defended. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious and keep building securely.